Good morning. So I finished the scene, the breakdown from Black Magic, and I've been a month on it. And as you know, 10 days is my limit. So, yep, I'm pretty sick to death of it. And I finished it a couple of days ago. Finished this round of working on it, let's say that, because this is by no means finished. And I'm going to talk, this is part 3 of dialogue, and I've talked about the previous parts from this shot onwards, shot number 59. Before that, I've discussed aspects of it already. So we're just going to watch through the dialogue scenes, the last 12 scenes, and then I'll discuss everything about it. And what I found out and what I figured out and various things. So let's just have a watch of that quickly.
He doesn't look well.
You best hand over some cash soon, mister. If you pass out, I'm going through your pockets for what you owe us.
If he is dying, I want my money now. Seriously, I am not joking here.
Is that all you can think about? The man's obviously not okay.
All right, Mum. What bit you?
Hey fella, if you can pay something, probably best you do.
Certainly. Sorry, here you are.
Only take what he owes.
Thanks. So I appreciate that. You seem okay.
What were you booking 3 women for? You don't seem like you can handle one.
I don't know. Just a fantasy, I guess.
What's your fantasy, mister? To die drunk in a lift?
I'll just played you the lift scene, part of the lift scene, and the last 12 shots that I worked on. I began the entire scene, not this scene, not the bookies, the one before it, which you've seen before. I began the entire scene over a month ago on the 15th of May, just under a month. I finished it on the 11th of June, which was yesterday, or the day before. And up to this point was grueling, this one here. Then I got Tripo Splat underway, and that sped things up. So I finished 4 days it took to do these shots, the last shots that you've just watched, which is really good, because if you look how many different camera angles there are, and that's something that's really hard to get without a lot of fuffing around. So now getting camera angles is actually quite quick. You just have to improve the quality of the scene afterwards, which is a bit slow and laborious. And since it's done in one monochrome, I don't know what you call it, but minimal colouring, I haven't even bothered running it through the main upscalers in some of these cases, and you might have noticed that. Now, in the video itself, there's a few things to notice that I want to talk about, and I'm never sure whether the sound comes through. But a couple of the tricks I did was that helped, and actually I should just quickly mention, if this is your thing, editing is your thing, get a hold of this book. In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch. I've read it before I did any actual real editing. I mean, I've made these sort of videos for a long time. I've made music videos and stuff for a long time, so I've been doing editing here and there, completely at an amateur level. I've even done animation and stuff in 23 and blah blah blah. But it's I've started reading it again while I was waiting for the videos to finish rendering, and it's actually got some absolute gold information. And one of those things that it started me thinking about again is emotion. And there's a kind of grading of what's important: quality, continuity. I can't remember what it is. It's in that book. And at the very top of it is emotion, and it makes sense. And I started thinking, is dialogue emotion? You know, trying to get down through the layers so you get an understanding of what you're trying to achieve. Because I don't know if you've done any of this yet, but editing is just, you lose sight of everything. Like, I'm a creative. I come out of music world. I've learnt a lot about my own creative process, and I've learnt a lot about the creative process from that world. And aged 60 now, and coming into film world with absolutely no concept of how it works is really fascinating, and I'm loving it. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff I haven't got a clue about, and I'm willing to accept that as well, rather than pretend I know. But one area I do have a clue about is creativity and the experience of it, and to get the best out of it. I mean, it's always a learning curve, but the thing is, 1 month on something, I really have to, it starts doing things to me. And one thing that I lose is creativity. And that goes quite quickly. And that's, after that goes, everything feels like a chore to me. That's why I'm not really an editor, and I never will be. But I don't mind learning the art, because it's very clear to me. It's very clear to me that we need to understand editing right down to the nitty gritty, even if we don't personally apply it and get some hobbit to do all the work. It's which I'd love, by the way. If someone wants to do this, I don't want to do it, but yeah, it's you need to understand it, because you need to know what to ask for, or what to change, or what needs to change. Because quite often these things, you go, something's wrong with this, and I haven't got a clue. And that's one of the things. Even though we might all have watched thousands of hours, probably hundreds of thousands of hours of television, none of us could make a movie without going and learning how to make that, because there's a huge difference between experiencing, consuming the thing, and creating the thing. And one of the other things that I learned in music was, and in some other things actually, is that nothing happens organically. In fact, porn taught me this more than anything else. Nothing happens organically. It's all forged, and a conduit is created to allow things to happen. And it takes a lot of administration, wisdom, and experience to create a conduit that can be maintained to sustain the apparent organic event to occur. And I think that's really true in filmmaking too. But anyway, I'm going all over the place, as I'm given to doing, and I'll cut most of it out, which I also have to do, because I have to edit my own shit. So the main thing I was diatribing on all that about was, I'm seeing that more important than a good cut or a good effect or a good shot is, I mean, good, these all tie in together, but the thing to be looking for is the emotion. And this has clued me up to the next thing, which is, I'm realizing that it's not achievable right now. So I have to go and look at changing. I'm going to go and look at the audio creation, because I've got no control of the emotion of the voices. This is where we need actors, or very good control of voice and expression, and we don't have any control of either of those things. Not really, not in LTX. I've been seeing a few more seed dance things, and I'm starting to kind of go, yeah, you know what, they're nearly there. It's yeah, I was hoping they weren't, but they are. And it's people are going to be making some good stuff, and we're going to be making some crap in OSS world. But this is all part of the fun, isn't it? But anyway, I'm completely going off topic. Point being, I'm starting to realise that I'm starting to think dialogue is actually the key to emotion, that and facial expressions. And we can't really do much to change the facial expressions, though that's not totally true, because I'm going to probably go back to look at mocap. That's what I'm looking at the moment. Okay, so let's talk about the dialogue. Now, one of the other tricks that I realised works really rather well, and let's just have a quick look at that. All right, so if you notice, everything's moving a little bit, and yeah, I started adding a very minor bit of camera shake in. Now, I hate camera shake when when it's done in movies, I detest it. It gives me, I've got vertigo going on at the moment really badly. I've had it for a few days and I've just changed new glasses, and so it means I'm getting it really bad. But things like camera shake will just throw me off, and it's probably even using this camera shake that's done it to me. But you can barely notice it. It's imperceptible, and that is actually another trick from music world. And I've said it before, where you're adding reverb at the very end to your entire song to blend it together when you're mixing down, and you don't know how much to add. The answer is dial it back until you can't notice it anymore, and then dial it back one more. Sure, if you want to go a bit more crazy, you can, but give yourself that standard gold line to go to. Go to that. Go away for a couple of days. And here's another thing, and this I learned from book writing. When you finish a book, you've probably spent a year, let's say you didn't use AI to do it, because I don't. But it took me about a year or 2 years for each book, a little under. And you're completely revision blind to it. And this happens in AI. And once you've spent any time on it, I've watched this about 1,000 times probably, and I'm sick to death of it. So I've got no idea what a fresh set of eyes is going to experience watching it. And you'll pick up all the problems that I can't see because you get revision blindness. But what you have to do with with books is when you finish your first draft, put it down until you've forgotten it. So that takes about a month at least, and longer if you can afford to. And it's worth it, because when you forget it and you go back to it, sure, you don't forget it completely, but you spot a lot more than you would if you finish the first draft and you're straight onto the second draft. So this applies here. So in this case, I'm only taking a few days, but I think the month is the magic number, and I'll tell you why. And this is all, I should really start doing a philosophy channel, because I've got loads of little tidbits. But I think it's to do with oxytocin. Is it oxytocin? The one that isn't the drug that you get hooked on, except that you do actually get hooked on it. It's the one that forms relationships, bonds. And I always remember reading up about that and learning that it takes about 30 days or something for it to reduce in your system. And they used to say it takes that long at least to start to reduce your relationship ties to an object. So I wonder if that's got something to do with the cycle of process of letting go of the thing you've been attached to and passionately working on. Like, it's a relationship of sorts, isn't it? So another massive waffle, but the point being, camera shake. I've applied it here, and the way I've applied it is by adding it in so I can't notice it, and then dialing it back just a little bit more. So that was that. The other thing I'm really noticing is cuts, and I'm noticing it having been away from it for 2 days. I'm already going, oh, that needs to get cut tighter. I'll play the whole thing at the end, but if you've watched this religiously, which I'm sure you haven't because you'd be mad, but one of the places I've shortened the cut was here, where it comes into this bit. Before it was going all the way around to his face, and before cutting to that, but watching it today, I was like, yeah, that's the right decision, because I didn't even notice that cut this time. Whereas before I was like, oh, that's an awful cut. And here's another thing. This is a fade cut, and then the next cut is a sharp cut. And I'm not sure. I used to use, whenever I was making any edits, I used fades all the time, way back when I was using Final Cut years ago for the naughty stuff. I was always doing fades, and people were always like, don't fade it, just cut it. But I couldn't deal with straight cuts, and I still get a bit confused by them. So I don't know what the right thing to do is. But anyway, here's another place where I tightened the cut, was here. If you remember in the last dialogue part 2, I was going, I don't like this bit where they're standing there staring at the camera. And once I cut it a bit tighter, that went away. So I'm now okay with that. So I'm starting to, this is all really obvious stuff, no doubt, to an editor. But for me, that this is stuff I'm learning. So tightening the cut is quite important. Now, another thing from that book that I just shared with you earlier, I don't know what it's called again, In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch, I think it is. He said that if you have two editors go in 2 separate rooms and come out months later with the cuts. They'll have 2 completely different films. So that's worth thinking about. These tighter cuts, I think, are important. And I could already see places where in this where I went, where I would tighten the cut up. But anyway, here's another one which this doesn't work, and I'm not sure why. It goes from this scene, cuts straight to there, and I think it's because everyone's looking in the wrong direction. Everyone's facing forward. So, you know, it's a thing. I wonder how editors address that. Because if you've already got all the footage and you've got no choice, you're stuck with what you've got. So, what's the trick? You know, if anyone knows, let me know. What's the trick for addressing going from this, where everyone's looking in certain directions, to this? Because that's one of those continuity errors, and there's just hundreds as you go through, you know, constantly getting into continuity errors because the last shot, they're not facing the same way as the shot. You know, you can get cutaways that work, and I'm tucking the voice underneath some of the cutaways. This shot kind of worked because the emotion is there, and this is where the one I was thinking about, where I went, this is one of the shots I don't mind because it seems to kind of work. She's like a bad actor, the way she's speaking, and I could run a few more goes. And to be honest, all of this I just did in one go. I didn't try and get the best result and then fix it up, because you can only get to this level right now anyway. So why would I try and get to this level with some of it when the rest of it will pull it back down to this level? So that's why a lot of this is crap and will stay crap until other stuff improves and makes it faster. Mainly, back to that equation, time plus energy is versus quality, or is equal to quality, is it's really important to me, and time being probably the most important to me because of how I know my creativity functions. And it's another thing, right? I'll probably cut this out too, but in school they really teach you wrong, because they teach you how creativity should always default to schedule and order and rules, whereas my creativity doesn't function that way. I have to wait for it to show up and then follow it until it's done, and it very rarely goes over 10 days with anything. And I've never been advised that by anyone at school. In fact, they were always, academia, young man, creativity is for poor people, and they're right. There's another thing as well. Another thing I've been saying about is, I had my idea, I had my script, that's formed years ago, came to make it here, and what I'd find was the wrong person would speak and say the thing I was trying to get her to say the thing. She wasn't supposed to be the moody one. Blondie wasn't supposed to be the moody one. The black woman was supposed to be the moody, loud one, but Blondie became the moody, loud one because she kept nicking all the lip sync. So rather than keep fighting that, I just went with it and went, okay, she's going to be the one saying the other lines and we'll swap it. And I suspect that happens in real life too, because if you get someone says a line better than another person, why not use them? But yeah, I mean, I'm stuck with the key figure Jack here doing what he does. But I mean, these shots are great. I was so pleased to be able to get to these kind of shots, because with Trippo splat and Gaussian splatting, and I've yet to kind of go back to it and learn what else I can do with it. And you'll see some more in the next videos once I show you about how to rotate a camera around dancers without losing their movements, which I'm working on at the moment, and it's going quite well actually. A lot of stuff to install, but yeah, just a splat, being able to now I can go anywhere I want in this scene. I can move the camera anywhere I want to, and I've yet to really explore how far I can exploit that. So I'm looking forward to that. But just having access to new camera angles that quick is like, wow. Yeah, here you go. A bit more camera movement because it was actually baked in on this one. In fact, that might have been what gave me the idea, reminded me to try it. And then thankfully in DaVinci Resolve, you've got a free camera shake in the effects section, so I just banged that in, reduced it, and away I went. In fact, I'm adding it to most clips because when it's on there subtly, you don't notice it, but all my static clips become a little less but yeah, subtle. And I'm starting to learn about cutaways, you know, where someone else is talking and then you switch to some different action while they're talking. She did something weird while she was speaking and I couldn't fight it. So I put him back over the top of it and that works as well. So cutaways are really handy. Ah, there's where I should have tightened it up.
Obviously not okay.
All right, Mum.
Right, it's an example where I immediately, even though it's only been a day, I was like, she needs to say that quicker. It needs to go straight from her talking, where she says something and then she goes, what bit you, Mum? And it's like, there's a delay and that needs to go because that cut needs to be tight because someone would react in that way straight away. They wouldn't, unless they were, I mean, she is doing a death stare, but it doesn't really, it's not apparent enough. So, you know, immediately I was like, oh, there's a delay. You can feel it. See, emotion, again, is something about, and this is another thing I've learned with creativity, is you can lose sight of emotion. I think it's really, 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 really important for this because how do you keep aware of the emotion? Because one of the things about emotion is they're like sugar. As soon as you take it, it's sort of gone and you've got the high and it's happened. Or any kind of, it's an addiction, you know, any high, once you've had it, you can't have it straight away again, not the same. And that's kind of the trouble with emotion. It's an invisible, but it's one of the most important things. And how do we manage that? And I'm sure that's the holy grail of filmmaking as well. Let's carry on. Any of these weird blemishes is VLC media. It doesn't really like running sometimes when you're starting. You're not hearing any audio. That's fine because I want to talk over it. This is one that didn't work at all. The way he speaks is wrong. It doesn't fit in right. I've just like, oh, I'll live with it because the thing was everything he did was right, so he puts his money away. Another thing is cash just looks terrible in LTX. If you want to test whether you've got LTX to peak ability, have a scene with cash in it because you soon realise how crap it looks. There's nothing you could do with it. I mean, that is actually really good cash. I've never had it this good, so it shows that I've actually tweaked my LTX workflows quite well now, because honestly, that's good cash. It's not like... Anyway, there's another cutaway with her death stare. That worked quite well. And you'll notice here, that's one thing I forgot to mention is I went, in this live scene, look at the aspect ratio. Compare it to back here. Like there is 2.39 to 1, I think. Pretty sure. That is the aspect ratio I like for two reasons. It's cool. It's cinematic. Sorry, that's combined into one reason. The second reason is it's by far the fastest to run through my workflow. So I either use that, which I use religiously if I can, or that. If you look at that, it's 16 to 9. Now, that should have letter bars, but a weird thing that happens with camera shake is when you put camera shake on, it brings it all forward a bit. So there'd usually be bars up there, but you can see the size of that. That's 16:9, and that's more what we're more familiar with movies of, you know, 80s, 90s, maybe 90s, I'd say, and 2000s. This is more now and possibly even wider, although also 70s. You know, Lawrence of Arabia, wide, and then this, and then I went because it's in the lift scene. Once I got in there, this is 16:9. But when we got to the scenes with the, here, you can see I switched again. So now we're at 4:3, which is almost square, very close to it. Now, unfortunately, that's quite slow and lengthy to get done, but I think I was using it because of the splats, I don't know. But it's also very nice and tight and intimate. So there's that, again, emotion This will bring it more intimate. Getting it square is more intimate and in your face, and cinematic is more, you feel more detached from it, but great for, you know, landscape shots or mountains or cinema. But anyway, I wanted to mention that. Cash looking good. Oh, here's one. You know what? This shot reminded me of old French films. Now, discuss why. Going from here to here. Now, I know what it is. I just don't know why. And I don't know the reason we don't see this anymore, and the reason we used to see it a lot in older movies. Now, let's look at it again, because it's the way the cut happens, cuts you straight to the middle of what's happening in the next thing, which is her handing cash over, instead of the actual going from holding the cash in her hand to moving it forward towards the person. Look, if I put an accordion under there, it'd be French. I'm going all over the place now. But the fact this is already, her hand is already out. But the reason I did that is because look at how this, when I first put it in, I put it in its full 10 seconds. There you go. They just take ages to get on with it. So, and nothing's happening. And then she hands the money and then she waits ages before she takes it. So I brought it up to about here. But the curious thing is, because it doesn't go through this act of the first movement, and it just cuts straight to there, it gives this feel. Feel it? 1960s French movies. Something like that. I'd like to know what that is called, if there's a name for whatever I did there, and I kind of liked it. I like it. I've got to go back through some older movies and try to analyse exactly what it is. Does any of that make sense? I don't know. Anyway, on to the rest. And then here's another problem area where I didn't have enough time. I should probably add another shot in there just to spread out the question, because it goes straight from him going, "You seem okay," to her going, "Why did you book 3 women?" And it cuts straight to it, and that feels rushed. It needs a sort of a longer pause. And the other thing, probably the final thing to say about this is, and this is weird for me, because usually a scene like this, I think it's revision blindness again, and this is why I'm going to leave it alone before I revisit it to do the underlying music, because this scene really is, from everything else, it's got a bit of a music feel here, you know, it's that cool music that I love there, and then we're just conversation. Something's not right about all this. This was horrible. That's a horrible scene. I really need to fix it. The way he speaks is so dry. But with the audio here, I don't know if you noticed, but I added reverb.
Can we start the clock once we get to my room?
Shit don't work that way, pal. The clock never stops. Shit don't work that way, pal. The clock never stops.
I stuck a reverb on it, very light delay, so there's a sound coming in a 15 square metre space and blah, blah, blah. This is sound design, the black art, something that none of us have really had to touch upon yet. As the ability to make dialogue and narrative increases, you know, it's often going to be given to us by the AI, but in reality, we're probably going to have to strip it out and add our own, because it's not going to be how you want it. And, you know, people will avoid it, but it'll be quite an important thing, I think, in the future. Yeah, so what happened in the actual cut of this is I added, not very well either. That was one thing I noticed straight away, because I've not really had to do it. I've done it in music, but I've never really had to do it for environments, so it's new to me too. But the application of it I understand, and that's something else. And then here's a weird one. Like, she speaks really weirdly, and I don't like it at all, but this is all part of where I'm going to venture to next, is I'm going to look for an update to VibeVoice, because I think there's a few have come out now, like Fish Audio and some other ones. And, you know, I might even end up paying 11 Labs and see what they can offer just to get, just to trial some things, because what we need is way better control of the emotion and delivery and everything about the voices. And they need to be the same people, obviously, but delivering the emotion and maybe even mocap and acting it. You know, I could act each part myself and change the angle for her and go, and hey, mister, yeah, la, 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 and do that, but then swap the voice out, but use the mocap to drive it. I'm going to look at that again. Something I looked at back in 2023, and it would cost you thousands for the equipment. Now I've been looking yesterday, and there's loads of stuff for it. So I'm going to have a little fiddle around with that. But underlying all that, and with this new theory I have, which is probably old info, but even, you know, I've always been saying dialogue drives the narrative, but I'm now going to be saying I think emotion drives the dialogue, which drives the narrative. So emotion is really how to deliver the emotion you're trying to deliver. And back to the point I was saying just now, the underlying music, this whole scene is crying out for some subtle underlying music, and really weirdly, I haven't a clue what I want to put under there. And usually I'm very clear about that. So something has still got me a bit foxed about this, that I've got to take some time away from it and then come back to it and go, oh yeah, that's what's gone wrong here. That's what I need to get back in there because of this revision blindness after a month. I know this story. I know what I'm trying to portray, but it's not there yet in this scene at all. And the other thing that I've noticed is, and why I want to get straight onto the next scene, which even though it's this, Black Magic itself is going to be these three women becoming dancers as they tell the story a little bit, or just a fun dance music scene. But that's then going to give me three scenes: the bookies, the breakdown, which is this, the lift breakdown, the bookies, the breakdown, and Black Magic song itself. And with those three first scenes, I'm going to be able to step back and watch it and go, right, what was I trying to do in this story? What have I hit? What have I missed? What am I trying to get to? What needs to change? I think, you know, this is all learning, and I'm realizing, do the first three scenes of anything. And I actually do this with series, and I hadn't really thought about it, but I do it automatically, and I'll always watch the first three episodes. So I'll give any series 3 episodes to get it right for me, and if it doesn't in that time, I'm out. You know, this applies here, like in the creativity of a huge, you know, this is a big musical, and you know, I'll never be out. I'm going to be trying to do this till my dying day, but those first 3 scenes, once I've got the rough skeleton of them done, I'm going to be able to know what I need to know to do, how to deal with it. You see what I mean? Anyway, yeah, so there's another realization right there, that I actually need 3 scenes of content to really know where I'm trying to go with this thing. And I think that's it to talk about on this one. That's a good 40 minutes of discussion. Oh, one final thing is, what's this? The AI gave me this for no real reason. This is the last scene, and then there's a delay as the music comes in, which is the song Black Magic, and I'm going to segue and work out how to segue. I put it in there for now because I wanted the emotion again. I want to know, I need the lift to disappear, and this has suddenly become a stage, like, look at that shit. You know what? If you don't specify, I've actually stolen some things. If you don't specify to LTX what you want, you get Indians. Has anyone noticed that? LTX has definitely trained its content on lots and lots of Indians, and I think I'm about to experience Bollywood in all its glory, which I already have because I lived in Harrow for a long time. But yeah, I'm getting distracted again. Let's get back to the. So yeah, this final scene gave me something that's I always tend to lean into humour with my stuff, and I don't know if I should. I need to try and discover some other emotions, but this just weird what his face does. And he ends by this sort of scary but funny, like a drunk man's grimace. Let's call it that, which he is. He's an alcoholic. That's in the story. You probably gathered that by now. I've been pushing that point home enough. But it's this look, and then it's going to segue into the music. But I kind of liked it because it's like a drunk child. You can see this sort of his reaction to being confused is laugh. Like blokes really do that a lot. Our defence response is laugh, and I don't know if you're aware of that. I am. It's a defence response. It's not because we're actually funny. Anyway, I really need to start my philosophy channel, don't I? And how much of that was actually about dialogue? All right, I'll let you go. I'm off this scene and I'm on to fun stuff like mocap and targeting, and that's not a penis, that's just her little dangly down thing. Yeah, thieving people's dance moves. There's probably copyright rules here, but you know, IP, intellectual property. Yeah, you'll be hearing from me in a few days about what I discover next. I'm just so glad to get away from this scene for a while. I was really over it. That'll do.
Yay, hi. 3 of your finest ladies, please. Booking time? I don't know. What's the normal length time? Then an hour, I guess. Room 667. Yeah, sure. I'll meet them in the lobby with the money. Cash up front and safety first. I get it. No, of course I am not drunk. I'll get another drink, please.
Certainly, sir. That's the drunk express who won £1 million for a horse race.
Oh, yes, I heard about him.
Hi there.
He's drunk, the asshole.
But you aren't high half the time?
Shut up, bitch!
I may have had a couple of drinks. I was nervous.
God damn it.
Someone was stuck in here for an hour yesterday.
But I'm not fucking him in the lift, that's for sure.
Don't matter, we are still on the clock. So pay up, mister. You can have a little play with my titties once I see some cash.
Can we start the clock once we get to my room?
Shit don't work that way, pal. The clock never stops. Cash now, or you are going to be stuck in a lift with 3 pissed off hookers. Good luck with that.
Yeah, maybe you can ask the agency for a refund.
Damn, it's hot in here. I could do with a drink. I don't feel so good.
He doesn't look well.
You best stand over some cash soon, mister. If you pass out, I'm going through your pockets for what you owe us.
If he is dying, I want my money now. Seriously, I am not joking here.
Is that all you can think about? The man's obviously not okay.
All right, Mum. What bit you?
Hey, fella, if you can pay something, probably best you do.
certainly. Sorry, here you are.
Only take what he owes.
Thanks. So I appreciate that. You seem okay.
What were you booking 3 women for? You don't seem like you can handle one.
I don't know. Just a fantasy, I guess.
What's your fantasy, mister? To die drunk in a lift?